Have you been walking door to door? Have you been campaigning for votes by going door to door?
Yes, I literally walk every morning at 7 a.m., Monday through Friday. And on Saturdays is when all of my volunteers come. And we walk every Saturday starting at 10 a.m. I've been knocking on doors. I've completed the entire Eastgate community. Almost finished with Oriole Estates. We've done Northgate. I've done my community that I live in, Bella Vista. So we've been knocking door to door. I've been meeting the voters because I always tell people, to me, there's no cookie cutter politician plan. A lot of times you have people that run for offices and they're saying, this is what I think I can do. This is what I think I can do. But you really don't know unless you literally speak with the voters. Although I'm active in the community, I've been finding out a lot since I've been walking door to door.
What made you decide to run for public office?
So it's been a passion of mine. I literally, when I first graduated college, moved back home. I was a part of a group called AfriPac, and that was back in the 2000s. And so I started doing other things, working for the federal government, working for tribal government. I got so big in my career that I was active in my community through my community service organizations. But I've always had an affinity for Lauderdale Lakes. And when I closed on my home, prior to even closing on my home, I became a part of the executive board for the football and cheer program in the city of Lauderdale Lakes, and working with the kids and working with the parents and working with the staff to make that a very successful program. I'm like, this is the city where I belong. So when I closed on my house, when my real estate agent actually said, I found a house, because I told her I want something new and something inexpensive. She said, but it's in Lauderdale Lakes. I say, I'm buying it because I am supposed to be a city commissioner. So I didn't move in the city and run for office. I moved in the city and started working on the boards. So I chair the Economic Development Advisory Board, and I've been chairing it since 2018. I am the current chair of the Budget Advisory Board. I've been a part of the board for 3 years as the vice chair, but this year I am the chair of that board. So through my work with our kids, with the parks, my work as the chair of the Economic Development, my work as the chair of the Budget Advisory Board, I felt that it was time. You know, they're always saying that we need a seat at the table. And my motto is, I'm in a season now where I want to turn the table over, because we have been compromising and we've become complacent. So I knew it was time when this seat became available for me to run for office.
As the chair of the Economic Development Advisory Board, tell us, why are there so many empty and dilapidated looking storefronts in your community?
I'm so glad you asked that, Steve. That's a combination of an economic development issue as well as a code compliance issue. I think one of the things and one of the challenges that we face, because I sit on that board with several of the property owners in Lauderdale Lakes, there is a challenge with the permitting process for new businesses to do business in Lauderdale Lakes. So one of the things that I'm proposing is that we're friendly to businesses. That means that we have a one-stop shop where if someone wants to open up a business in Lauderdale Lakes, they know what to do, who to go to, and how long that process takes. We don't have a full-time inspectors, so we contract out. So we have an inspector that comes in on Wednesdays. So let's just say you have 10 applications, they have to wait till Wednesday. So I think part of it is our permitting process and the long time that it takes. Literally, if you pull the minutes from our Economic Development Advisory Board, you will hear property owners saying that it's taking 18 months for people to do business. That's a long time for an individual that has invested, that has done renovations, that are ready to do business, but they can't open because they don't have a license. So I think a part of that is the engagement of our property owners, them not being frustrated, them not having the ability to lease to individuals because they know that it's going to take a long time. So I think part of that is an economic development issue, us really streamlining that process, us really making that process virtual so that people are able to do permits online, not having to go to the office, call someone, you can't get nobody to pick up. And then the other part is code enforcement. Really, what I found during the budgetary process is we are severely understaffed. We have budgeted allocation positions, but they have not been filled. And when you don't have them adequately filled, let's just say, for example, if the city has 7 code enforcement officers in the budget, you only have 2, you're going to get the dilapidation of buildings. You're going to get plazas, because that's one of the pain points, Steve, that a lot of our people that I've met have had is the plazas, a few plazas in our city that they're just sick and tired of the way that the condition that they're in. And that's part of what I believe that I'm called to do is I'm not the status quo. I'm not in your traditional, this is the type of politicians we've had. I am a mover and a shaker. I have passion and I have the skill to hold the city manager and every individual accountable for following through on the actions.
You're CEO of your own business, Stephens Consulting Group. Who are their clients and what kind of work does that company do?
We do a lot of business consulting, finance, human resource, and leadership. Town of Jupiter was one of my clients. I've worked with them with a lot of their CDBG funding grants that they've had. I have a lot of individual and personal clients. Redeeming Word Christian Center is one of my clients. So I do a lot of finance, human resource, and leadership development and grants management. That is the primary of what we do. Stephens Consulting Group has a program that's called Monopoly, which is a financial literacy program that helps individuals get their finances together so that they can live a prosperous life. So that's what Stephens Consulting Group does.
You know what?
Can I ask a quick follow-up to
Yes.
that? You said a church was one of your clients?
Yes.
Which church is that?
Redeeming Word Christian Center International.
Is that Floyd Amos's church?
No.
Okay.
This is Lonnie Brinson, Pastor Lonnie and Jarrell Brinson. I'm the
Okay.
chief administrator, so I oversee all of their finances, human resources, and community outreach.
Thank you. We didn't quit we went in our last conversation. Floyd Amos is one of the candidates in District 1, and we asked what the name of his church was, and it was a little garbled, and it sounded a little like that, so I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, it's Redeeming Word Christian Center International.
Okay, thank you.
What's the approximate size of the Lauderdale Lakes city budget?
It's 69 million. Actually, Steve, I'm so happy that you asked that.
Okay.
Me and my budget committee was very, very grateful that we had an opportunity to help prepare, go through program modifications, look department by department, revenue fund by revenue fund. And actually it recommended, and it's going to be voted on at the end of this month. And it's a little over 69 million. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's $69,815,586. I think that's the recommended 2022 budget that we've recommended for the commission. So they've gone through a couple of workshops. We got one more, and then they're at the final stage where they'll be voting for the budget. And that's a 38.1% increase over the 2021 budget.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. In the last candidate panel we had, Vice Mayor Marilyn Davis said that the city's millage rate is going down about 4%. That's what she told us. Does that sound right to you?
I thought that we voted and recommended what we, as a budget advisory board, recommended. The millage rate is staying the same. It's going to stay the same as it was, which I believe was 8.6. It's supposed to stay the same. All of the things that the millage rate was 8.6. The fire rescue was 333. None of those were changing. There were no change or increases from the previous year.
Okay. I will look online in more detail, but you're quite right about one thing here. I'm looking on the city's website at available jobs working for the city. And one of the first jobs listed is a code compliance officer. And the posting for the position was made on July 15th. So that job's been open for at least 3 months as a code compliance officer. Starting salary, not too bad for a community of your size. Starting salary for this job is about $49,000 a year.
48. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, and yet they can't fill that position. Why would that be?
I once again, I think that one of the issues that our city is having is the staffing. And one of the things I pride myself on is passion and skill. You guys have probably interviewed dozens of people that have passion. But when you're talking about having the responsibility of the governance of a city, you have to have more than passion. You have to have skill. So my background with the Seminole Tribe of Florida with finance, my background with grants management, my background in running a nonprofit, my background in working for the federal government, I have those necessary skills to work alongside and partner with the city manager to make sure that we're processing job applicants, that we're filling all of the positions, because one of the main issues that I have is I'm in one of the newer communities. And I said this and I mean this, and I know that the city has had some challenges in the past with their finances. And so they kind of stabilized the city. And I think what has happened is we have our current commission or our previous commission have just stayed at a stabilization. But you've added so many new communities. The community on commercial, 420 apartment units. The community that I live in Bella Vista, 129 villas, 30 more townhomes, 317 apartments, and you're building $500,000 homes on the corner of 31st and Oakland Park. You cannot keep the same staffing level. You cannot keep the same public safety level. So I think what has happened is it's time for us to move out of the maintenance mode and really address, properly staff our city so that we can adequately serve our residents, our business owners, and make sure that we have a safe place to live and work.
Okay, but I'm going to turn the questioning over to Dan in a second, but properly staffing the city costs money. Paying those salaries costs money. That sounds to me like a prescription for raising taxes in a struggling community.
No, Steve. And when I say properly staffing is if you go back and look at our budgets over the past 3 years, there has been properly allocated funding in the budget for positions that have not been staffed. I'm not even talking about adding new positions. I am talking about properly filling and properly staffing the positions that have already been accounted for in the budget.
Okay. And
that's
by the
the
way,
challenge,
I want to go
especially in
back.
public works. Yes.
I want to go back just 1 second because of something you said that stopped Dan and I cold, I'm sure. Why would it take, with the city permitting process, why would it take 18 months to get a business permitted in Lauderdale Lakes?
Because when you're contracting out to these contractors, you have contractor A say, hey, I've done my inspection. This is good. You just need to fix these. Contractor B comes back and say, oh, no, you need to change this door to a fire door. Okay, now you do that. Then contractor C comes back. So that is the challenge we've heard over and over at our economic development advisory boards. We've met with our developmental services. We've had them run them down. We've done price comparison of bringing in inspectors in-house and kind of looked at, can our budget really handle that? But no, we did meet our last meeting that we had. We did meet with the inspectors. I called them in as the chair to provide explanations to our property owners. And they're working on now streamlining the process. We're going to a digital process so it can be tracked. That is a tracking process where the actual business owner can track where their permit is in the process. To me, that's transparency. When I have to call someone and run someone down to follow out, I don't know where it is. But if it's an online process, which the city has already started taking it online, then an individual can go online and know exactly where they are in the process.
Is the permitting system for businesses in the city? You lost me. Is it done by city employees or is it contracted out?
No, it's done by city employees, but the inspections. So you know how we have structural engineer. Those inspections are people that we've done contract with to perform those inspections.
I see. Okay. I want to give you a little quiz about Lauderdale Lakes, or something I know about Lauderdale Lakes. One of the busiest places in the community. Every day, every morning, you can drive into this place. It's not a private business. That's my first clue. But you will see dozens and dozens, and in some cases, hundreds of people standing in line outside a shopping center. What place am I describing? Do you know?
Are you describing a driver's license place?
Yes, I am. I'm talking about the famous state-run driver license office, which yes. I think it's at the northeast corner of Oakland Park Boulevard and 441.
Yes, it's right behind Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, right. I live in the community right behind that, Bella Vista. I have one of the villas in that community.
All right. Well, I know that community, and I've been there many times, but I mean, it's a conversation because that's a state function, not a city function. We know that. But for reasons I can't fathom, I mean, that place is overrun with customers. Yeah. The state has done a deplorable job of managing customer demand there, really.
But I think, Steve, even what you're talking about that, and I think that where we've lost the edge and why I'm excited about the opportunity to become the next commissioner in Lauderdale Lakes is we train people how to treat us. So although it's a state-run facility, as a city, we have to train state, county, whoever, how to treat us. We deserve the same respect. We deserve the same efficiency. We deserve the same operations that any other city. So I'm excited about that, working and partnering with all of those different peoples. Even we have those county projects that they're doing on our infrastructure. They're just starting all over the place. It's taking a long time. And so it's really working with them and making sure that they treat Lauderdale Lakes with the utmost respect. But yes, I agree.
Why is this seat that you're running for? Why is the seat open?
Because the current commissioner, Commissioner Beverly Williams, term limited.
Okay. What is your opinion about raising the salaries or benefits of city commissioners?
Okay, so that is where, you know, some people say, oh, I don't agree. Now, I looked at Lauderdale Lakes and they've been 9,000 for the commissioners, 11,000 for the mayor forever. I think in 2011, when they had the crisis, they took a 10% increase and it went back up. I think that, see, the way it is, a lot of cities, the commission votes on the increases without the voters. Lauderdale Lakes, for the salaries, it goes to the voters. Now, what I do believe is there should be an increase, but I believe that once that increase hits a threshold over 50%, then the voters need to vote on that. I do not agree with city commissioners giving themselves, like one city, 150% increase in salaries. I believe that at some threshold that the voters then need to happen, but I don't believe like they've been 9,000 forever. And so I do believe that they're due, just based off of how things have increased, an increase in salary, but it should be capped off.
Okay. Let me turn the questioning over to my colleague, Dan Sweeney.
Yeah. So 4 years ago, the Sun Sentinel, when these two seats, seat 1 and 2, were up, the Sun Sentinel endorsed Marilyn Davis and Beverly Williams. And at that time, one of the big issues was the city was just coming off a huge hole it had dug for itself in the money it owed police and fire. Can you give us an update on where that stands now? Is the city still in the hole at all? I think it had gone down from like 6 million to 1 million by then.
No, the city is not in a hole. We have wronged the right with what they had with BSO at the time, and that's why I say the city has done a great job at stabilizing and cutting to make sure that we came out of that debt. Although now fire and police represent a huge chunk of our budget, you know, and so of that, I think it's about 26 million of that 69 million is with police services and emergency management service. So they are a huge chunk of our budget because it's vital, but we've dug ourselves out of the hole. We're not indebted to them at all. And I think that was one of the challenges that we're having now, is because when you've been on the brink of being taken over by the state or the federal government, you govern a little different. But I think we've moved ourselves to a safe place. I think we have a little about 13 million in the fund balance. So I think we're in a good place to really start doing some of the things. We have access to ARPA funding, which I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to rank where we think that ARPA funding should be spent. But yes, we have righted the wrong with BSO. We're not in debt with them. And I'm glad to say that we've come out of the hole with them.
Speaking of Beverly Williams, how do you think she did in her 8 years on the commission? You're looking to replace her specifically. And is there anything that she did that you would have done differently? How would you be a different commissioner than Beverly Williams? And how would you be the same?
I think Ms. Williams, I've always said this, I had an opportunity to work on her husband's campaign, and during that process, and this was in 2010, during that process, I always used to say, Miss Beverly, you really the commissioner. I've never met anyone that loved Lauderdale Lakes like Beverly Williams loves Lauderdale Lakes. And so in terms of, I think she fulfilled one of her things she talked about was infrastructure. She was big on infrastructure. And I think she really did the part, because we're seeing the changes, although some of the residents are upset, but we have to change water and sewer lines. So we've been seeing those projects happen throughout our city. I would say that we have different passions. Ms. Beverly is a very horticulture. She's into the garden. That was a huge project of her. She's into the historical part of what Lauderdale Lakes means and represent, because she's been a staple in that community. We have different passions. So I would say not something that I would do different. I think that the supply that I can add to the city is the expertise that I have in finance and human resources and the innovation. I think outside of the box. I don't color within the lines. I don't come from the descendancy of your status quo politicians or this group is always the one that is leading and running the Senate. I march to my own beat. I believe in full transparency and I believe in partnership. But I think she's done what she said she would do when she ran 8 years ago. Okay, and one thing that's come up in not just your questionnaire, but in questionnaires from a couple of candidates in District 1 as well, and it hasn't really come up a lot in other cities,
is code enforcement.
Ooh.
We haven't seen a whole lot of people complaining that this is a huge issue in their city among candidates in other cities. But here, almost every candidate says we need to do something about code enforcement. So could you just kind of describe what exactly the issue is that we're seeing in Lauderdale Lakes that we're not seeing elsewhere, and how exactly it gets addressed?
I think Steve talked about those plaza. So you're looking at vacant property. You're looking at inoperable vehicles that are parked in our community, because we're only 3.25 mile. We're not a 10-mile city. And so you're looking at inoperable vehicles. You're looking at trash. You're looking at tall grass. You're looking at weeds. You're looking at aging properties. And I know for a fact that it's a staffing issue. When you only have 2 enforcers or 3 enforcers trying to do the work of 7 or 8 enforcers, you run into this problem. To me, it's really about really changing the mindset of our code enforcement. Code enforcement is like our first line defense. They're the greeters in Walmart. When you go into Walmart, the greeters, the one that say, "Welcome to Walmart," those are the ones that set your tone for how your shopping experience is. I feel the same way about code enforcement. They set the tone for how people interact with your city. They're not just there to prevent slight and blum in the community. Those are the ones that, to me, they're your problem solvers. They're your communicators. They're the ones that are doing research. They're the ones that are responsible for holding the standard. When you knock on residents' door, I had a chance to interact with one of the residents who works for the city of Fort Lauderdale, who lives next to a canal. And he said, "Ma'am, look at my canal." He said, "I'm not voting no more. Look at my canal." Everybody say what they're going to do, but they never, ever come back. And so we're talking about making sure that what we're doing is not when it's an election time. It's not something when we're trying to get votes or we're trying to get the voters to do a thing, that we have a passion for ensuring that our city is not dilapidated. Our city residents are not feeling you have to, because we've heard the complaints. Oh, if it's this person's street, if it's one of the mayor, if it's the mayor, or if it's the commissioner's street, it's done. No, we want every individual to have the same attention as if I was an elected official and I have that same attention. So I think that that's the challenge that we're having. Spoke with a lady this morning, right before I came here, after I had to run home and get dressed. I spoke with her and she said, "Listen, they're running into our cars doing these wheelies in our community. Bulk trash is not being picked up consistently. I'm sick and tired of it." And so we even people that are running, like for me, knocking on doors doesn't stop once I get elected. I want to engage our residents, and I'm trying to get them, please come to commission meeting. Residents, they're the leaders. They are the head coach of the city. The commissioners are just the quarterback. And so I'm trying to engage them to be involved so that they can hold their elected representatives accountable. So I think that that's the challenge, of really educating our community, especially the ones, think about less than 40% of our community is owner occupied. So really forcing the people that rent in our community what our standards are.
Yeah.
The amount spent on public safety, you said it was 29 out of 69?
I think the one we're recommended for fiscal year 2022, I think it's like 26,469, 26,469. And
Okay.
that's our highest priority, because they have a big chunk of that 69 million that we're recommended.
I mean, it's a lot, but I mean, for the record, that other cities and, it's well over 50%.
Well over 50%.
So, I know it's probably the largest chunk of your budget, but
and believe it or not,
speaking,
that area is still understaffed. And I'm talking about allocated positions and something. So that's something that I know that we're going to be working on, because when you grow a city as fast as we've been growing, you have to increase the police presence as well, and more from a community policing standpoint.
Other than needing more police in the community, do you think BSO has been doing a relatively good job with what they have?
I think they've been doing a good job. They're very active and involved in our HOA meetings. They show up. They're involved. Like I do a lot of work volunteer work out to the football cheer program at Vincent Torres. They're actively involved out there. They come to commission meetings. So I would say that the officers that we do have, they're really involved in the community. Of course, we lost one of our greatest leaders that was a staple in the Lauderdale Lakes community, Detective Bernard Brown. He passed away, but they've done a great job of filling that role and making sure that officers are showing their face in our community. So I would say what we have been actively involved and working alongside of us.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Yes. Ms. Stephens, you indicated your consulting business. One of your clients is the town of Jupiter.
Yes.
Do you have any other government clients?
Not right now. I don't have
Okay.
any government clients right now, just the town of Jupiter. And actually, once I let me take that back. I do have a RFQ for the city of Lauderdale. I just end up getting requests for qualifications. So I'm one of their go-to people for small businesses, development services in Lauderdale. I haven't executed or done any work, but I am one of their approved RFQs for the city of Lauderdale.
Okay, and tell me again for Lauderdale, what's the specific kind of work you'd be doing
It's
for them?
working with small business in terms of business plans, marketing development, but it's small business development.
What was the last position you held at the Seminole tribe?
It was the grants compliance. And
Oh, okay.
I was responsible. I worked in the finance. I worked in the finance office. It's the Seminole Tribe of Florida. I worked under the executive director for finance department. And I was the one that was responsible for working with the outside auditor, of course, because they're the tribe. They had to have a top 3 accounting firm. So I used to have to work with the accountants and the outside auditors to make sure that everything was coded properly, to make sure they had all the documents, any funding that we got from IHS, NHS, any funding that they got federally. I was responsible for making sure we were in compliance in terms of spending, in terms of all of the requirements for the funding. And so that was my job there.
Okay, so you've had a lot of hands-on, having to do grant compliance work involving the federal government, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Okay, very good. What is you obviously have a very strong grasp on the day-to-day operations of city government. So it's an obvious question to ask, what kind of a job has Mayor Hazel Rogers done in Lauderdale Lakes?
I think the mayor has done an excellent job in terms of engaging the city, keeping the city informed, working in partnership with the city manager, the city attorney, the city auditor, her other colleagues and commission, and making sure that the residents know, especially during COVID. I know we got a lot of alerts about meetings being involved. I had the opportunity of working with Mayor Rogers during the pandemic to provide a lot of workshops. As the EDAP chair, we did a lot of partnership with providing workshops in terms of businesses, how to get working with the SBA for those people that get SBA loans, working with all of the programs that were available for our city residents and our businesses. She made sure that information was readily available. So I think that she's done the job that she set out to do in the city as her time as mayor. And I think it's time for us to move into another direction and to have a change of blood. I think I started out and said, I don't want just a seat at the table. I want to do what Jesus did. I want to turn the tables over. I think it's time for us to move our city out of a maintenance mode into a more innovative and progressive mode. That's why my tagline is building the city for the future. And I think that's one of the things that we don't do well, period, is that used to be a time when I was growing up that older politicians trained younger politicians. We left a legacy. And I think that we haven't done that. We haven't left the legacy. So my goal is to build a city for the future for generations to come behind us.
Explain something to me that I should know, but I'm not well versed on. Mayor Rogers is leaving office. In fact, I think she has already been elected, or she's going to be elected to the Broward County Commission. How's the mayor's position going to be filled?
Oh, Steve, that's one of the things that that's been a challenge in our city.
Right.
Mayor Rogers did what was supposed to do. She was supposed to give a resignation date. But I think the challenge that we're having in the city is we're operating off of a charter that's extremely old, have had very few updates. So that's one of the first things that I know that I want to do is form a charter review committee and start reviewing the charter and making some changes as I went through the charter myself. So based off of the charter says when the vacancy in a mayor arises, the vice mayor automatically becomes the mayor. The challenge is, depending on when election results are certified, when the new commissioners are sworn in and take office, I think the last day of Mayor Rogers' day with the city is also the day of the organization meeting where amongst the commissioners, they select the new vice mayor, because in the city of Lauderdale Lakes, the vice mayor rotates on an annual basis. So every year they select a new vice mayor.
Right.
The challenge is the current vice mayor is up for re-election. So let's just say the current vice mayor doesn't get to see a new vice mayor. So now you're looking at, we will have to select a new vice mayor. That person will immediately succeed to becoming the mayor. Then you will have to now select another vice mayor, and then we will have to appoint a commissioner. So there's a lot of unknowns and ifs, and what's ultimately, regardless of what happens, there will be an appointment of a commissioner. The new commission will have to appoint a new commissioner, because one of the commissioners that's elected will become the mayor.
If the current vice mayor is reelected,
it's still the day of the organizational meeting. The day that Mayor Rogers resigned is November 21st.
Okay, so she wouldn't automatically become the mayor then. You'd still have to.
We will have that's the day of the organizational meeting. So there are so many what ifs and so that has been like a point that the new commission will have to deal with. But those are just all the scenarios. I've played it out. I've read the charter. I've made sure I look, because I want to make sure that I'm ready day one to deal with whatever happens.
As it's been reported in a number of places, it's been a lot of online chatter about it. If Hazel Rogers had made her resignation date effective a little bit earlier, the mayor's position could have been filled by election. Am I correct?
Based off of, see, the charter is very unclear. One would assume that had the resignation date been the 7th, we could have just had an election for the mayor, but the charter doesn't. The charter says that the vice mayor automatically becomes the mayor, but the charter doesn't say it couldn't have been an election. So it's just up in the air, so it's either way. We just don't know what could have happened. But if she would have did the 7th, then that means that it could have possibly been on a ballot for this November election.
Right. The bottom line is, the next mayor of Lauderdale Lakes will be chosen by 4 people. Am I right?
4 people.
4 people, 4 commissioners, because there won't be a mayor. There'll be
There won't be a mayor.
That is that's hardly democratic, but I understand you. Lauderdale Lakes became a city in 1961, and by the way, it has been a really very long time since the city of Lauderdale Lakes had a direct voice on the Broward County Commission, which it will have now. So.
Hey, what if you split 2-2?
Now we have a problem, because isn't that the job of the mayor? The mayor breaks the vote of a tie, breaks the tie. So these are all the unknowns that we shouldn't have had to deal with. But now we're at this point where we're going to have to deal with that, because if you're split 2-2, what do you do?
There's no answer for that in the charter or anything like that?
No answer for that. That's why I say one of the first things that I want to do is a charter review, because when I went through the charter, I'm like, this is an old charter. This is very old. Very few things have been updated. Very few things have been updated since the charter has been written. It's very few things. And so that's one of the first things that we do need to do is a charter review.
Okay.
You've got impressive hands-on experience dealing with government, in the trenches. I'm looking at the city's website, and I have to say, for a city its size, the website I find very well organized. It's very easy to navigate, but something so simple. I was trying to find budget information just now from the city's director of financial services. His phone number is on the website, but not his email address.
Yeah, those are all the things.
I want to email the budget director. I can't find his email address. He's a public employee. He works for us, the taxpayers, right?
Yep. Yeah. And that's one of the things that we're talking about. We went through with our economic development. We literally sat there and went through things. So imagine you're a journalist, you're a researcher, you couldn't find it. So imagine a person that's just trying to do business in the city. So that's one of the things that we definitely have to work with, making sure things are accessible. If we're going to be transparent, everybody's email address, everybody's phone number, that we have that information, and that our website is as current as it could be.
I haven't been to Lauderdale Lakes in a few weeks. Do you have campaign signs at intersections?
Yes, I do.
What color are they?
They are red and white. And when my picture is red, white, and purple, and it has my picture on it. I had one on the corner of Oakland and 441. Somebody took that one, but I have one on Oakland at a car wash. I have one coming right out of the city of Lauderdale Lakes. You'll see my big picture. I have one on 31st, right in front of not too far from Board Anderson. So I have big signs all over the city.
Is it okay for candidates to put campaign signs up in abandoned lots that there's no, like in front of an empty business, for example? Is that okay?
Well, for me, it would not be, because I want to make sure that I'm complying, because I can't be talking about code enforcement as one of my campaign points, and I've not properly contacted the property owner to get permission to place a sign. So I don't. Every place I have a sign, I've literally went in, spoken with the owner, and made sure it was okay. So you won't see my signs in abandoned lots. No big signs for me, because I feel like we have to contact the person and make sure that we're able to do that.
Something else about this mayor vote. You're not on the commission yet. So has anybody on the commission, Davis or Phillips or Maxwell Williams, approached you about your vote for the next vice mayor who will then be the next mayor? Has anybody?
No,
they
haven't. No, they haven't. Because at that point, then if it's something that's going to be elected, that means that all of us will have the opportunity to do that. But no, I haven't been approached by anyone about the vote for the vice mayor.
Okay.
I'm just checking your academic credentials here. You've Alabama State bachelor's degree in criminal justice.
Yes, I wanted to be an FBI agent.
Okay.
But ended up in a different path. Had my daughter while I was in college, and so I came back and got my master's in counseling. And instead of going to the FBI, I say, okay, then I'm going to be an attorney. Didn't go to law school. End up going to Nova, getting a doctorate in leadership, and then currently enrolled in a special program at St. Thomas to get a research PhD in leadership and innovation.
And what's the status of you doing your I see your ABD from Nova. Are you going to?
Yes, I have 2 years to complete that, and then it's a no-go.
Okay. Well, I think you're well aware of the fact that, particularly with your local government experience, they say these jobs are part-time, but in reality, they're not, right?
I know. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've greatly enjoyed this conversation with you this morning. You came well prepared. Dan and I see a lot of candidates, and it's refreshing, and it's reassuring to see the kind of homework you've done here. So be true to your priorities, what you believe in. People get elected to public office and they change after they get elected. They start listening to the wrong people. They listen to lobbyists. They listen to some power broker in town. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Be true to yourself, and the community, you know what it needs. So Dan and I want to wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the opportunity to even interview for this endorsement. I want to say thank you so much.
Okay. Well, you're welcome. Thank you. See you later.
Right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.